Alright, since we've got a nice cozy and toasty fire going on here, I figured I could do a random ramble video. It's quite nice, especially now that summer is fortunately over. Not exactly my favorite season. Fall is. It's always really nice, and this makes it even cozier. So yeah, we won't be joined by Kara for this video because of lack of the right mood, I suppose, for the topic or the type of video, whichever it may be.
It wouldn't necessarily improve the video if I were in it.
Well, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would disagree.
More than eye candy!
We may soon have a Bring Kara Back riot on our hands because you haven't been in videos lately, but who cares, right? That doesn't make any sense to say because someone will. Anyway, I guess I'm in the right mood. Very tangential, very rambly. So if you don't like that, well, you know where the door is, or the button. Anyway, so one of the things that has been, or that have been with me for a long time on this earth is a sense of alienation. I don't know how many of you know what I'm talking about, but basically the sense when you look at your species, like humans in general, and you get this sort of, I don't understand us, what the hell are we doing? That kind of thing. I wish we were something else, or I wish I was somewhere else and something else, which is also one of the reasons why I find video games so enjoyable. So this appreciation for how the world could be if we weren't the only species, and if the world wasn't as mundane as it is. And I know religious people will disagree with me that no, it's not mundane, but from my point of view it very, very clearly is. And humans are just, I know we're good and bad, you know, light and shadow, you know, all that kind of thing. It takes, you know, yin and yang to form the whole, all of that. There's good and bad in people. But maybe it's just me, but I very often see the bad more. Like if you look at things like, well, for example, confirmation bias. Everybody has it. Everybody. It's not just some people are flawed. No. The species, we humans, our mind, by default, is kind of flawed. It's very ironic, like, for example, how limited our perception is. We're pretty solid all-rounders in the sense that, you know, we can see and hear and, well, not so much smell, but we can see and hear pretty well compared to many other animals. Many are more specialized on either vision or hearing. We do it, you know, passably well, but, you know, in the big picture, you know, compared to many animals, we perceive very little of the world, really, and are not very, well, perceptive, if you want to put it in one word. But at the same time, we believe, we have this delusion that the world is exactly the way as we see it. And only what we see is right, and everything else and everyone else is wrong. It's just such a bizarre thing, really, if you think about it. You know, considering our limitations, how much hubris there is, how, you know, convinced we can become that we know it all, and we are just the masters of the universe by the power of Grayskull. No, not that type. Another really flawed thing is video batteries, which always die in the middle of something. But whatever, right? So what I like about fantasy is that it gives you a break from the reality of human stupidity and arrogance and drama and petty nonsense. And you can immerse yourself in something else. You know, in a world with, you know, whatever it may be, fantasy races like elves and dwarves and whatever, dryads, you know, all kinds of things. And what I personally always enjoy is when they are not like humans, which in a lot of cases they are. In many cases, fantasy authors just write them to be, slightly altered, stereotyped humans. Stereotyped in the sense that basically they all have certain characteristics, like there's less diversity, which would make life easier in a way because then you know what to expect. But yeah, it's also not very imaginative. And personally, I'm very much drawn towards species or races or whatever you want to call it, which are more harmonious and less dickish, I suppose. Protoss, for example, I find pretty interesting, even though they have their own conflict as well. But overall, they seem to work a little better than humans. Because the funny thing is, while humans are social animals, at the same time, we really, really suck at it. We are not particularly socially competent, as seen by our tendency to solve disagreements with violence and, to kill people over not believing in the same invisible, untouchable, and otherwise not perceivable thing that's supposedly out there somewhere, or abusing someone else, be it verbally or physically, for simply not agreeing with a particular ideology, that sort of thing. I mean, human history is a mess. I mean, it is full of bigotry and bloodshed and just all kinds of tragedy, really. It's hideous. Nowadays, we are often obsessed about it, about what the news show us, about all the rapists and murder and war here and there and theft and vandalism and random ridiculous drama where, oh, this person said that about me and oh, how terrible. That kind of bullshit. We may be more focused on it because we are more exposed to it because of the media. But really, if you look at history nowadays, it's a lot better. We are a lot more peaceful overall. We're less judgmental towards, out groups. And, we don't kill each other over disagreements as much as we used to anymore. So it's definitely better, but there's still a lot left to be desired. And sometimes I very much wish I was something else because I just become that painfully aware of human and, of course, my personal limitations. Even if you try to be, open-minded as much as possible and not judgmental and, kind of be reasonable and treat people decently and take into account their personal individual background and everything, and the fact that they are not stupid just because they happen to believe something else or happen to not be aware of certain information. But it's hard. I mean, human emotions are something that can definitely mess you up. It's like in moments of anger sometimes, or frustration, or annoyance, I sometimes say things that I really, really don't like afterwards, and that are not very wise or civilized or reasonable or whatever you want to call it, right? And it's really frustrating how trapped we are by our emotions in some ways. Yes, I understand that in many ways our emotions are a strength because from a psychological point of view, and psychologists have discussed that a species like the Vulcans, who are completely going on nothing but logic and reason, they would be at a disadvantage compared to us because they don't have the drive that we have, and also emotional processing is a lot quicker than rational. Like if you have to stop for a moment to assess the situation and think about it, and then you're suddenly jumped by a saber tooth and just torn to shreds because it took you too damn long. But at the same time, I'm also thinking these ideas like, hey, it's good that we are the way we are and we need this and that. Of course, that is from a human perspective. So an entirely different species on an entirely different planet in a different ecosystem and blah this and blah that may get away with completely different, mental makeup, if you will, or neurological wiring. So I think it's also a case of human hubris that we always think, oh well, we are always already the perfect thing, like our body shape, for example. That's everywhere else things would also evolve to be pretty much like that. That's why in Star Trek, alien species, they just have a little bit of different eyebrow ridge, and then they have a different color and a little bit here but it's basically humans with a little bit of slight cosmetic alteration, which I always find a little strange. I mean, I guess it is possible that you would run into such beings, but you could also run into transcendent, telepathic, flying jellyfish or something. Could be all kinds of things that we can't even imagine. So, there's probably not too much of a point to this. I guess this is more just kind of a little talk just for the hell of it, for the hellfire of it or whatever, and for relaxation and whatnot. But many things, if you look at what we do, they are kind of insane. I mean, we flush our excrement with drinking water. That is pretty insane in many ways. Yes, of course, if you look at it, it's all economy, and it costs so much to exchange everything and blah this and blah that, but it's just because we're stuck in our ways, really, and we're still addicted to non-renewable energy sources, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, even though we could progress and get, move on to completely renewable types of energy sources and better technologies and everything, but we don't, because we're stupid as a species in general. Yes, you can point out all the glorious things that we've come up with, all the brilliant inventions and, medicine and all sorts of, nifty machinery and ideas and everything, really. And yes, we are really good at that too. We're ingenious, we're good inventors and everything. But at the same time, it always feels to me like these achievements just really serve to put even more into perspective how primitive we are in many other ways. It's probably a very cynic way of looking at it and overly pessimistic, and you probably shouldn't think like that, but it's kind of what goes through my mind. And then there is the whole thing of human interaction and society. So many things we do that just make no frickin' sense. We just do them because it's tradition. All the social games we play, like how we put on the mask, depending on the social situation, we emphasize this role or that role, and then we have to, especially the males, have to establish like their hierarchy and everything, and how we just tell bold-faced lies of what we think about someone else. Like, that person is really nice and everything. Oh, you're such an asshole. All the ways in which we backstab each other and talk crap behind someone else's back and suddenly turn on them. And I mean, there's a reason why the traitor is such a common theme in fictional stories. Like in so many stories, you have somebody who was at first is like the hero's best friend and ally and everything, and then they suddenly turn on them and sell out and betray them for money, or because they've really always secretly hated the hero and wanted to get back at them, and that kind of bullshit, really. I mean, it's just, being animals is not exactly a good alternative, because, and that's the really sad part, animals are messed up too. If you look at a lot of the things.
And the other animals.
Yes, the other animals. If you want to be precise about it because we are also just a type of animal. But dolphins, for example, yeah, they can save people from drowning, and they can sometimes defend them against shark attacks, and they show empathy and everything. But they also rape other dolphins, and fight. And then you have, of course, chimpanzees having pretty much wars, and killing the young of other animals, and being all sorts of really cruel. I mean, to be fair, many animals don't have a concept of cruelty, so they don't do it just to be assholes. That's where we really shine, because we do things just to be assholes, really. Things like torture, for example, is a very human thing. But, still, other animals are not exactly such a great alternative. Well, the fire is going out, so that should tell me that I've been talking for too long, so we should leave it at that. End the ramble rightly, because it doesn't have a right to exist for that long. So, yeah, if I had to summarize this, I'd be at a loss. I guess it's just kind of humans suck, which, yeah, does seem kind of stupid if you look at it that way. It's a very pointless ramble, but I'm sure some people will get something out of it for some mysterious reason. And the others, feel free to judge me for being too pessimistic. But, well, I'm human, so fuck you if you disagree. I'm gonna fucking kill you. Anyway, thanks for listening if you've made it this far, which obviously you have if you're hearing this. And see you. Have a good day or night or evening or whatever it may be where you are.